there are two decks that I want to take a look at before we hop into some remote duels ourselves. The first one, obviously, is the one Runic deck in Top Cut that wasn't the Stun Runic. Obviously, we need to check that one out. And that is Runic Plunder, featuring the Captain, is apparently what he calls himself. Let's see the Runic Plunder goo.
Alexander Haddad, or Douglas the Captain Haddad. I managed to get top 16 with Plunder Patrol Runic today. And with that in mind, I have a deck ready to show off and everything to explain. So let's begin.
Wait, before you see the goo, any shoutouts?
Oh, well, I have to save those here in the middle. Yeah, do that.
The middle?
Anyway, well, shout out to these wonderful people. My best friend Rob, my lovely mom, my gorgeous wife, and the homies, aka another set of Plunder crew. With that in mind, let's begin. Starting with non-engine, just to show it off, get it out of the way, I ran a single copy of Harpy's Feather Duster in the main, 2 of the Forbidden Droplets, 2 copies of Cosmic Cyclone, and my absolute favorite card to play, because nobody likes it, 3 Evenly Match.
Okay.
So, the explanation...
It's interesting that we've decided to main deck back row hate in this format. I guess maybe we were predicting a lot of Fire King? That's the only explanation I can think of.
With these particular side was very simple. I hate hand traps as a burning passion. I prefer if I'm going to play cards like that and if I'm going to actually use something, because at the end of the day, with hand traps going first or even going second, you can brick just drawing into them, and it's the worst feeling. So with that in mind, I said, you know what? I'm going to save the hand traps for the side deck for this particular deck profile.
Can you attempt to activate evenly if you activated a runic spell beforehand? Okay, what you need to do, this seems to be a common misconception that runics and evenly don't go together. You go second, you draw your hand, and you simply enter the battle phase first, and then activate evenly. If you don't have a battle phase because of runics, you can't evenly.
And make it so no matter what anyone puts up, I crack their board. And with that in mind, these are the particular 8 cards I chose. Oh, I did have to make one mention though. So one particular man that helped me out today for this list was Anthony DeSimone. Shout out to the homie. He helped me particularly just throw in the Harpies with the evenly. And his reasoning, he actually does a lot of studying in terms of the format, in terms of going to different events. And he found Harpies being one of the best cards trying first or second for an engine that can just discard. With that in mind, now that we have the non...
Why though? I'd like to understand the reasoning behind Feather Duster. Like, what's the application for it? I'm not sure if I like it. Cause like, what's the matchup where you really want? Like, if I'm okay, going first, Duster obviously isn't good, but you can discard it. That is true. But if I'm going second, what's the matchup where I want Duster? Like, it's not pure Snake Eye. It's not branded. It's not... Is it Fire King? I guess it could be Fire King, but if they have Sanctuary, then, Stun. Even Stun, like, unironically, against Runic Stun, Duster isn't that good unless they have Skill Drain up. If you have to bait the Skill Drain and then Duster them. But, yeah. I don't know. I guess it's okay to take away all the imperms as well. That's a nice bonus. Like, you get to like deal with all the imperms and such, and like the Snake Eye Field spell. But I don't feel like it really deals with the major like issues that you have.
Engine on there. We're then going into the Plunder engine. Starting off with the best field spell in the game with 1 copy of Plunder Patrol Shipyard. The reason why I say that is because this card can set itself from the graveyard as long as you have a Plunder card in the spell and trap zone. You'll see more of that later. As well, this card can discard a card, any card, and add any Plunder Patrol card from the deck to the hand and boost your monsters. So it's kind of like watching like Luffy during the fight against Kaido. He's got a big fist ready to go, and the idea is that you build up and build more and more and more until you've got a monster with over 5,000 attack ready to swing in and crack the opponent's board open. Again, we only need 1 for this particular deck just because of the fact that we have other field spells we want rather play with. And then from there, we have 1 copy of the best trap card, Plunder Patrol Booty. So to give you info on this, it's just a Call the Haunted that changes an attribute. So if you have to play against a matchup that's not fun to play against, like Flounder East, Konami, where's my win chip? We always like to switch out the attribute to make it so our Plunder Patrol monsters have a lot more access to their tools and various arsenal. And being able to revive and constantly, shuffle back is also good for the long game. With that in mind, because again, we want to make sure we have our cards. Now we have the monster lineup, starting with one Redbeard. We don't want to play more than one. It's unfortunate. He is amazing at what he does, but his grave effect isn't as handy, let's say, as for Whitebeard. He's always about either summoning a monster out or being summoned off of white, or for some reason being that plunder card you need to discard. He's a one-off. From there we have two of Bluebeard, the Plunder Patrol Shipwright. So this guy in particular is very fun. He's a special summon, but in the majority of the time you're actually going to use him to get more ammo, as I like to call. You'll be discarding him off of the effect of Hugin or other effects during the draw phase, helping avoid cards like Droll and Ash Blossom, and getting more advantage over time. He's also a special summon if you control a plunder on the field, so more bodies in order to synchro or even link. From there, we have two copies of the best bird in the world, Black Eyes, the Plunder Patrol Sea Guide. This particular card is great because it's a hand extender, so if any plunder is in the grave, you get to target it, any plunder monster, summon, add the target, and then you're able to give yourself a body and more follow-up. The reason why I love this card, you don't want to run him at 3 just because he can be a little cloggy, but at 2 he's perfect. The reason I particularly love this guy is because I constantly deal with people nibbing too early. I'm either going to force them to go for nib when there's just a simple Blackbeard, and then all of a sudden there's a token. It's like, oh no, bird! Get me my card back, proceed to make another Blackbeard, and continue playing like nothing happened. From there, then we have 3 copies of Golden Hair, the newest Plunder Patrol. She's our tuner, as well as Whitebeard, the Plunder Patrol Helm. So these 6 in particular...
So this is... If you wondered in general about my opinion about Plunder Patrol Runic, because I have played this deck, obviously. I have tried this deck, and I do think it's a good deck. My personal issue from I'm a Runic connoisseur. What I didn't like about this deck was the fact that you really need to, or you really want to, draw one of these two guys, right? The deck can function if you draw the other plunders, but it's really at its best when you draw one of these two guys, because they are like the perfect discards for Hugin, right? And there is good synergy between the deck, between Runic and the plunder cards. But that main synergy really lies in if you draw one of these two, which obviously is why you play them as 3-ofs. But the deal that you're getting is like not insane, because all these cards, what this means is you have 6 cards that you really want to see alongside your plunders and alongside your Runics, sorry, and the others are sometimes fine, but you'd rather not. You'd rather draw these guys on the left, right? And this means you have like 6 cards you really want to draw and 7 that are like, okay, even the field spell, the field spell can search a plunder, but at the cost of a -1, which just isn't ideal if you have to you want to be efficient with your resources, right? It just feels worse to draw the field spell than to draw them directly, especially because you'll also be playing into Droll and Lockbird and such. So it's all fine. It's a functioning version. I just think in terms of the combinations that you can draw and the amount of quote unquote engine requirements you have to play is it can be a little awkward. It's a little awkward.
There are tuners. These are getting us into our Coral Dragon later on, and various other synchro monsters that we're going to be playing to give the opponent a disadvantage while we provide more and more board presence. The difference between gold and white: gold is an extender in hand or grave. In graveyard, she can pitch a card, revive, and then locks in a plunder. Or if she's in the hand, she can send a Plunder Patrol card in the spell and trap zone, we'll get more into that later, to the graveyard to summon for free without even a lock. Whitebeard's a little different. He's just like Redbeard. I like to call these guys...
It's the best plunder deck, but not the best Runic deck. I think that's a good way to put it. It's a good deck. It's not my favorite Runic version, but it definitely is functional. And if you want to play plunder, this is probably the way to go. Yeah.
Pilots. At the end of the day, they're summoning ships out, and they're providing more cards to be played and to be summoned. With that in mind, the secondary effect of Whitebeard is when he hits the grave, everybody knows, he summons a plunder out, and that's where a majority of the time you're going to get your Redbeard out. Alrighty, with that in mind, that seems to be the entire plunder engine. Now we're going to have to go on to the other side of the actual deck here. Not a lot of people like it, which I can understand, but I don't like playing against the same deck 8 times, so with that in mind, that's going to be our Runic engine. 2 of our lovely fountain. I don't know what Konami was thinking, putting anti-fragrance to 1 and saying, hey, no summon limit. Also, Link Karibo's gone. And it's like, wow, this works. So with that in mind, we have our 2 lovely fountains, and then we're going to go off with the quick play spells.
They are lovely.
1 of the Hammer, Smiting Storm. 1 Dispelling. So these are always, I like to call the flop outs. Whenever you have to side in for particular matchups, these are the first 2 they're going to be going, always starting with Dispelling, unless the format gets even more search heavy. And then from there, we also have 3 of the best card. 3 Runic Tip, of course. 3 Flashing Fire. 3 Runic Destruction, because we don't like back row. 3 Slumber, because for some reason being able to banish and draw more is okay. And 3 Freezing Curses.
Nice.
So
17.
These cards were great in their particular number and their engine and their number. I was able, Anthony again, helping out with that number ratio, telling me, hey, it's better to run more than just 12, 15, go for a little more. And so I followed his advice on that. It paid off. Alrighty, so now that we have the actual, Runic engine out, we're gonna now bring up our Cider Extra. What do you think, Bortle?
Extra is nice. What was the main deck count, by the way?
The main deck count was a flat 40 today.
God, yes.
And we'll mention it with DB Grinder, 40 versus 40. Gotta love to see it. With that in mind,
the energy is great.
Let's start with the side, because I like to save the big bosses for last. We have 1 copy of Rivalry of Warlords.
You side out Runics. You do often side out Runics, especially going second, yeah.
Big fan of this card. I wish it would come back, but again, floodgates. The big thing I like about this, though, is that I'll just show it now. This particular card, Yord, will always give your opponent a token. Because it's a fiend that you're handing them, the idea is that you give them that, draw phase, flip this. Now, they better have the out, and which, by the way, you're going to side the out for the out to beat them at it. So the idea is that you just give them a Plunder Lock, hit them with it, and then they just...
This is why these cards shouldn't be limited, guys. This is why. If they acknowledge that these cards are a problem, just put them to 0, man.
We're going Squirm. With that in mind, we also have 1 copy of Talents. Again, I'm not a fan of playing more than 1. I hate drawing more than 1, so I'd rather keep it to 1. Also, it's a better going second card, so I'd rather just drop it in when needed. Then we have 2 Crossout Designators. These came up a lot. In particular because of the fact that I was main decking Cosmic. Game 2 and 3, I'm always expecting it in order to get rid of my Fountain or even my Rivalry, which is annoying, and I think everybody can agree. So, dropping this in and keeping a Cosmic in there makes it a perfect anti-clutch card. And then from there, we have a bunch of other cards as well. We have 2 copies of Dark World Puppetry. So this card only came up once in the tournament. This particular card is very fun. You just target 3 cards, banish them, and then discard a Fiend. As you can tell, all Plunder Patrol monsters are Fiends, so you get the ability of going draw phase and stopping Fire King, which I didn't see a lot of. I saw a lot more of the pure variant, but it still came up. And then from there, we're going to go with the rest of the lineup. We're going to go with 2 Droll and Lockbird, 2 Ghost Ogre, 2 Nibiru, and 2 Ash. So the thought process behind the side deck, Anthony DeSimone just talked about it, the law of 2. So being able to, seeing more than one of these in hand, not the best. But with the amount of cards that you had in main deck, I'd either be sending in 1, throwing these 2 in, and then like another card, expecting an opponent's card to come out, or I'd be dropping off a bunch of different hand traps, again, removing those limiters, and continuing to play. And then of course the final card, 1 Munin, the Runic Wings. He came up only, honestly, he only came up only once, but it just happens.
That explains it, it's because it has wings, obviously.
So that he's able to get protection for, your card.
2 ops feel nice in Runic, to be honest. It is, I've said this before, there can be a multitude of reasons to play some of these cards at 2, for example. Like, one example could be that if you side in the crossouts going first, you want to side in some hand traps alongside it. For example, Ash. It's interesting that there's no Imperm over like the Ghost Ogre, but it would really suck if you draw the Ash alongside the crossout, right? Which isn't the highest chance, but that could be an argument to play 2 of them, right? But yeah, I mean, in general, Runic draws a lot. I don't even know if I agree with playing hand traps in the first place here, because we're already playing some board breakers in the main deck. I would personally probably rely on more board breakers after siding, but yeah, I guess.
With that in mind, Now that we've gone over the side deck, let's go over my favorite part, the extra deck. So
Plunder draws a lot too, yeah, but like the reason why this argument of the deck drawing a lot isn't the best argument here, although it is true in theory, these hand traps are mostly for going second, right? So you want to draw these cards before you can use your draw effects, right? Like you're gonna want that Ash Blossom or Nibiru or Droll before you resolve Fountain or before you resolve all the plunders, right? Like that's how that's gonna work out most of the time, right? Like I doubt that you side in like infinite hand traps when you go first, actually. Looking at the deck, like you take out like maybe the Duster and the Evenlies for like some, but like for the most part that doesn't apply when you go second, because you really want to open the hand trap before you draw.
Extra deck, we're gonna start off.
The Dark World spell is kind of funny, interesting, but I don't think it's actually good. I think there's more efficient ways to break a board than hard drawing a quick play DD Crow for 2 that discards a Fiend. I'm not the biggest fan of that one. It's nice, but like, yeah, kind of cute, but I don't think it's...
Start off with the let's start off with the other fun engine.
Yeah, but still.
So, or non-engine. We'll start with Coral Dragon. And of course, SP Little Knight. So these are just... This is a part of a combo that we have involving our tuners. Drawing any one of our particular tuners, either Gold or Whitebeard. Oh, let me pull her out. And any of our other Runic engine, which you'll see right here. Mostly Yugioh, or even Jerry if you have to. Enables you to go into Coral Dragon, providing you to get more cards during your actual
Eclipse,
draw.
thank you for the raid. Hope you had a good
even
stream.
if, for example, your opponent drops like a Droll or anything like that, it doesn't matter because you're able to get that draw and then make them wait for the next turn. Because at the end of the day, you're going to give them a token, Blackbeard will be on the go, and you keep on playing. Also, because of that token, it gives you protection from Lightning Storm, like shenanigans like Imperm, and various other effects.
Yeah.
And of course, can't forget the rest of the engine, our Searchers for the actual field spell, and Jerry, the best of the boys. And of course, everybody's absolute favorite part of the deck, the rest of the extra deck, which would be 1 copy of Plunder Patrol Ship Yord, 2 copies of Plunder Patrol Ship Bran, 2 copies of Plunder Patrol Ship Liss, 2 copies of Plunder Patrol Ship Moiric, and everybody's favorite monster.
Is that how you say it? Moiric? No shot. It's just Merc.
2 copies of Plunder Patrol, or Blackbeard, the Plunder Patrol Captain. Sorry about that, I'm losing my mind. With that in mind, the ratios on these are very simple. Just give me one moment here. So when it came to...
I mean, this appears standard to me. Whenever I've played Plunder decks, I've been using the same ratios, except for sometimes the third Link. But I guess if you think that you need the third Hugin, then that makes sense. I mean, everything else feels mandatory here.
SP Little Knight, this card came up a lot, especially when having to deal with Appaloosa and cards of that nature. So being able to have this out already, or summoning it out, normal summoning Whitebeard or even Blue, and being able to make her gives you that chain block that you absolutely need. So being able to go Chainlink 1 SP Little Knight and Chainlink 2 White or Bluebeard gives you that chain protection. And of course, when it comes to the numbers here, I didn't expect to see a lot of Kashtira, so 1 Yord was more than enough because he's always able to place himself back and give us those tokens. And then with the rest of the extra deck, I found that it wasn't the best feeling in the world having only 2 of these. I might consider changing that up. But when it comes to the actual ratios, everything felt perfect in terms of summoning my monsters and playing on through. If I have to make any notes about this version, I would definitely say for the side deck, definitely going to change, of course. But I would recommend this for an even more grave responsive format. So if we're going to see Tier Element again come back, or we're going to see some more shenanigans of the grave like Horus, more than a consideration. But for now, change it out. And with that in mind, I guess the only thing I have to do now is say my shoutouts. Thank you to the Shipyard and everyone in my life that has made this game more than possible for me. I got to thank, my gorgeous wife Michelle, my brothers Rafe and Gabe, Jimmy and Rich, my mom and dad, and the entire Plunder Patrol Shipyard, which will actually have a description in the video down below in the description. There'll be a link down below. With that in mind,
very wholesome deck profile. Very wholesome deck profile. Love the energy. The deck itself is solid. I think Plunder Runick is a real deck. Not like a tier 1 competitor, but it's all right. Watch further. Wait, what happens?
I also like to say this to anybody joining the shipyard. Please feel free to message me personally if you ever need a lesson or ever need any help with Plunder Patrol. I'm always there for you guys,
Bro,
and
it's
you're
too
always there
wholesome.
for me.
I can't handle
Thank
it.
you so much. It's been more than an honor. And with that in mind, I hope you guys have a lovely Plunder-tastic day.
Plunder-tastic day, okay.
Thanks again for the profile. Congrats on top 16, man.
Of course, Plunderstandable.
Until next time, everyone.
Plunderstandable, dude. No. No. Alright, that was sick. This guy was apparently just going up to people being like, ahoy, the captain is here. I mean, yeah. What else is he supposed to say? That is more than Plunderstandable.